Yo guys, what's up? This is Redfield and I'm going to be taking you through our track Nightales with myself and Kelli-Leigh. So firstly, we're going to start off with an earlier session that I worked on for this track so we can look at the sample and where it came from. Now, a trick of mine is to go to places like Splice and look for samples that are actually not at house tempo. So this is how this one originally sounded. So quite different, a lot slower. And I think what I did was I warped it, pushed it to house tempo. I know that I stretched it by 4 semitones. Turn it to Complex Pro. And I squashed it, so 75. I'm guessing that's just like an 8-bar phrase, so let's just push that together. So as you can hear, there's a vocal melody on that sample, and I actually sent this version over with the vocal sample already in it to Kelli-Leigh. And obviously as a singer and a writer, it's quite hard to write a new melody with something already existing. So this is the version that I sent over to Kelli-Leigh, starting from a little bit before the drop. So obviously that's difficult to then write a new vocal melody over. So luckily with this sample, the actual sample pack had, I think it's called 5+3. There we go, yes, this. I was then able to go through and put the entire sample back together without the vocal, and it enabled me to get a better mix of what I wanted out of the sample. So I knew that I wanted this harp phrase with the run at the end. With the run here. That's like the main bit. In my opinion, that's my favourite bit. So then I was able to mix the sample back together again. I don't think I did too much EQing on everything. Actually, did quite a bit. And then create a sample as a whole, where I've done all the processing on here. And we solo it all together. Let's remove all of the processing so you can see what's going on here. So starting off on the first group, because this was the original group that I used when I had just the single sample in this one over here, and then I recut it again all together. So this has just got some monoing on the low end, some more EQ, I'll just grab that because it's in a different window, some saturation, and some mid-side EQ processing going on as well. So you can see what's going on here. So it's a dynamic EQ, bringing up some of the highs, taming the mids, and some harshness there as well. So then we go to the next bit of processing on the group. So we've got some compression going on, some slight stereoization, multi-band compression, black box for saturation, some more EQing, and some mid-side again. So it makes quite a difference with and without. So this without, and then with. Obviously there's a jump in loudness, but apart from that there's a big, and then you've got, there's a big clarity difference as well. You've got some sidechain compression going on. But that's not doing anything because the kick's not running at the moment. Also, this isn't the final session, so we'll get into more of that in a bit. But I'm just showing you this now because of in the final session, it's all just one sample. So let's dive into that now. Okay, firstly, we're going to start off with the drums. We'll start off with the kick drum. Basic sound here, let's go. So we've got EQ, Saturation. More EQ. Annoyingly, all the plugins, all the external plugins are opening on a different screen. So some clipping. And I'm taming the end of the kick drum because it was just too much without it. So this is this without. See that huge tail? And then for like the disco house kind of sound, I wanted a short, punchy kick. But also still a little bit housey, otherwise I would have tamed it a lot further. Let's close these down. Now I have to say that I had to upgrade my laptop, so these aren't the exact settings on the final track, but I managed to retrofit it so that way everything should be sounding basically the same. The original sounds like this. And the remake with all the plugins put back in again that got wiped sounds like this. So it's basically there. Right, so let's go into the tops. So the tops are side chain. The group of the tops are side chain to the kick drum. Doing some slight ducking, some mid EQing, and then there's a filter. But let's go to the clap first of all. So we've got the clap group. You've got your main clap. It's quite short. Dead central, left, right. Actually, I'm jumping through stuff, aren't I? So we've got some saturation going on here, some compression, transients to make it snap more, and then a clipper again. So this is the main first clap. And then without it all. See, there's a huge stereo image there which I wanted to get rid of, so that's why I've put it in mono, because we've got left and right claps happening already. So let's get rid of these. Just some basic left and right with a bit of EQ, then a live kind of car wash clap. And if you see, I've done some delay as well, some time delay, just so that way it gives more of a width to the clap. And then an open hi-hat, which is a little bit more delayed, tiny bit delayed, just to add like a swing to it. The compression and some EQ. Show you the setting of the compressor. I wanted it super punchy. Conga, slightly panned. So those settings. The shaker, no real processing, there's some more panning going on there. Another shaker, just taming the real highs. So it's not too much on the high end for the hi-hat, to let that go through as well. More. This is the breakdown sound, I think, so let's go over here. Not too much processing going on there, this is just some side chaining going on. Some perk delays, it's percussion delay, sorry. With a dub echo, a dub echo, which I've turned off because it leaves this long ringing sound if I were to leave it hanging on. So let's just. If you listen there right at the very end, you need good headphones or turning your speakers up really loud. I can't speak today. Turning your speakers up really loud to hear that sound that will just linger on. There. I've got some glitchy kind of sounds that I've wanted to put in. Just some, I think they're just vengeance sounds. Yeah. And I've got triangle roll. Again with a dub echo. Some more percussion. This is panning, so you can get some more of a stereo image. more panning. I think I made sure that those were panned opposite, so that way it wouldn't be conflicting. Yes, if you can see, I've inverted that one to this one because of, otherwise you just have this mess going in the same speed. And then finally the rides. This is just to add power to the end. So on beat, and then over here it will be off beat as well. Come on. Yeah. As you can see, this is a long session, but what I always do is when I'm working in a track that I know needs a extended and a radio, or an original and a radio edit, I always work within one session. So any EQs, any automation, and automations, or any volume controlling, it can be done in one move. Also, I never automate the volumes of a track. I always do that with a gain, a utility, because of even like just using the gain there on something rather than using the volume, because of if you want to adjust the overall volume of something and you've got it automated, it'll always jump back to that original volume, and that's something that took a long time to figure out how to do. So yeah, I try and always use utility automation or gain automation in another area rather than the volume. Okay, let's go to the bass. Now with the disco house stuff, for the last year or so, 2 years, I used the legendary Evolution of Sounds, Evo Sounds bass sound, which is the BA Jacked, and I think that's from the first ever Evolution of Sounds, what was that pack called again? Deceiver. Yeah, and I've used that for so many things, and basically all I do for this, to create this, I've saved it as a Redfield bass line because of that's just so much quicker, is I've just extended the release, really. It's such a fat bass sound if I solo that, but I've got rid of the top because of, I do like that, but with this track I wanted it to sound more realistic. Let me just open up this so you can see everything that's going on. Massive shout out to ZenWorld /Evolution of Sound. I love his stuff. I've used it for a long time. Oh, it's doing this thing again. Oh, it actually worked. This is the 3rd time I've recorded this video, and every time I have opened that Saturn 1, it's just warped into a weird tiny version. So anyway, these are the settings I used, but I've got rid of all the top end. So I've got some gain automation going on there, just because I felt like bits and pieces weren't popping out that I wanted them to. So this is the processing going on the group. Some bass EQing, some saturation, EQ. So this is something I do quite a lot. I put on this multi-band dynamics plugin and just set the super lows to like limit, and here to 120. So I'm getting full control over those low ends. And then the clipper again. Okay, this is why it's distorting. It's clearly hitting it too high. So if I was to bring that down, that's better. So that would have been probably how it would have been. And then shaper box again. I use this for basically everything for my side chaining, because of you've got that control. Big up to Lee and the guys from Cable Guys for always hooking me up with all their stuff. This gives you like a multi-band control of everything. So I knew that I wanted the tops of this bass to cut through, so you can see that there's a much more aggressive LFO curve to this than there is on the highs. And the highs aren't even at 100%. So that is the bass sound. And then some filtering and a low cut for when I want to get rid of those basses completely. The group, we've got these are atmospheric synths. These are exported from the previous session, so it's just like big pads that have just removed all the low end in the previous one, just to add some width. Another one. More ringy, more top resonance to this one. And I've got another one over here. So I'm adding some stereo width. Some strings, held strings. You've got some big volume increases there as well. And then, oh yeah, huge atmospheric stings. Alright, and a disco, I think this is just a disco laser. Classic. And then this sound I actually wrote very much towards the end, just before the release when I was doing this final mix. I just felt like it needed an extra sound. I think I wrote this on Massive. Just doing some slight panning as well, because it just felt like it needed that lift. I'm just going to mute it and let everything go. Sounds good, obviously, without context of the build-up, but I just felt like we sounded an additional riff to the main riff. Super subtle, but I just felt like it lifted it. You've got the processing again on the group. So this is now the exported file of the riff. Nothing going on in the actual channel itself, but it's all going on the group, because I must have condensed it all within that one group there so I must have processed it again, I'm guessing. We've got some track spacer. What this is doing is it's sidechaining off the bass file itself, so it's adding even more control to the low end of the sample. So let's take this, put this on without the track spacer and with. Just really controlling this entire frequency here of where are we at here? So 300 hertz, 350 hertz. It's just not needed when you've got a bass that is going all the way up and beyond. So I've controlled it by quite a bit actually. Some EQing, quite a bit of EQing actually. And these are dynamic EQs, so it's just controlling as it goes to keep those frequencies in check. A big lift there on the tops. Your endless smile, as per usual for the build up. Parallel compression, just to add a bit more punch to it. As you can see, it's not on full, so if it's on full, way too much, so just adding a bit more smack. Shaper box again. And then Soothe. This is a brilliant plugin. This is basically like another dynamic EQ that's just really controlling these harsh frequencies in the like 3,500 hertz. So listen to what I've been honing in on. I'll solo it. Real harsh sound. So if I mute it, it sounds like this. Just makes it so much easier to listen to. So yeah, that's the final, whatever, I won't save it. Final plugins. And then obviously you've got this incredible vocal that I haven't even spoken about. I did a lot of the processing in the last session because there was just so much going on in each channel, and I needed the computer space, the RAM space, just to be able to open this file. So I had to condense everything together. But diving into the vocal, I sent this backing track to Kelli-Leigh after I'd done a session with her, and I was like, got this disco house track, I would love for you to be on it, see what you think. And she loved it. And then her and the writer Louis went away and did a session on it and sent me back a demo, and it just blew me away. Like, you've got this amazing spoken word bit, which I'll solo for you so you can hear it in all of its glory.
I'll tell you a tale. A night tale.
Like I said, most of the processing is on the previous session, so it's got all the effects on there, but I've still got this on the group, which are mostly just automations for the build-up. I felt like certain bits needed more reverb and less reverb, especially in the drops, because otherwise it gets a bit messy. So yeah, I also reversed the vocal and put reverb on it, so it sounds like this. Let's jump up a bit further. And then if I put the original in.
A night tale.
And I've sidechained the vocal, the affected vocal from the original vocal. It's a technique I do with vocals in general. I'll have like a send and return file within the session. I don't think I've got an example of it here. It would have been in the other one. So that way when a reverb or delay hits, it's brought down by the original sound. So for example, here I'm making sure that
I'll tell you a tale.
It's dropping at almost like 1.5, 2 dB.
A night tale.
2 dB, so that way the original sound is cutting through and it gives space for the vocal to cut through. if I've explained it well. You can see what's going on there. There's a lot of EQ. I mean, it's mostly just mids, isn't it, really? That's some pretty drastic EQing. Could have just used a filter. So just diving in through all the individual layers, we've got the lead, the incredible lead. Then EVs. And then lower octaves, which I've panned hard left and, well, not hard, but central left and right, to add some width. In the BV group, I would have done a lot more panning as well. Also, one thing that I did in this track was I accidentally left the lead vocal in, and I could have gone through and removed it from a previous session, but it created this cool phasing effect, which is kind of old school in the lead vocal. And so if I solo this, you might hear some phasing in the end if you listen. On the here especially, if you listen again. And all the elongated sounds, it sounds a little phasey. And I was like, I actually like that quite a lot, so I left it in. So yeah, I think that's basically all the processing. And so with everything going on, let's go from here. Oh, the mastering plugins I use. Okay, so I used Reference to get it against the references I was just using. As I was using. Bass Room. So because again, so that way I could get all the bass right. I was again using a reference track that I thought that was in the right key and the right sound. Right sound? What the hell? It's like 20 past 12 on a Wednesday. I can't speak. That's ridiculous. Some EQing, not heavy EQing, because it's only 6 dBs worth of gain. So it just kind of ties it up. If I zoom out, you know, it looks like absolutely nothing. But then I guess everything would. I'm not really making sense. I hope this makes sense. It's useful to somebody. And then this is some serious treatment going on here. This is cutting out the low ends, low cut of 24. Some compression. Multi-band dynamics, mastering, multi-band compression. I think this is controlling the sides again. The low, yeah, it's making the low end at 60 hertz mono. Quite heavy makeup, and 1 limit, and 2. There. So if I take all of this processing off, it sounds like this. So this is without any of the mastering stuff on. And then with. Anyway, thanks a lot. I've been Redfield, and I hope this has been useful to you, and I will catch you soon. See you later.